So today we are going to talk about genetic engineering. So you all have learned about transgenic. So whenever we have to make the transgenic, we have to follow genetic engineering methods, tools, and technology. It also requires the recombinant DNA technology. So if we see the genetic engineering, there are two major components: construction of gene construct or gene cassette, and another important component is transformation. So once you made the gene construct and if you perform the genetic transformation, the outcome will be transgenics, and it is also known as GMOs, that is genetically modified organism. So the difference between conventional hybrids or conventional breeding program and genetic engineering is the use of a technology which is known as recombinant DNA technology. So if any variety or any organism will be modified using recombinant DNA technology, then only we can say that it's a transgenic or genetically modified organism. So these two component transformation and gene constructions are important for performing this genetic engineering. So we'll go one by one and we'll see that how these components can be made, how we can make the gene construct and how we can do the transformation. So coming to the next slide, we'll try to define a gene. You all know that gene is a segment of DNA which consists of protein and regulatory sequences. So if you look at the gene, it contains two segments. One is protein sequences which will code for either amino acids or functional tRNA. The protein sequences will functional code for amino acids or functional RNA. And this protein sequences will be flanked by regulatory sequences. The very important regulatory sequences, as you all know, that it's a promoter sequences. You have a terminator sequences. So gene is a fragment of DNA which consists of protein as well as regulatory sequences, and it codes for either amino acids or functional RNA. So if you look at this diagram, you will find that it contains the promoter sequences and it also contains the protein sequences. If you look at the prokaryotic and eukaryotic gene or the protein sequences of prokaryotes and eukaryotes, you will find that in the protein sequences of eukaryote, which is shown here, it consists of exon as well as intron. But if you look at the prokaryotic protein sequences, there will not be any intron. So the major differences between protein sequences of prokaryote and eukaryote is the presence of and absence of intron. So it is there are some reports that the protein sequences of eukaryotes also does not contain the intron. So there are intron less protein sequences also exist in eukaryotes. So if somebody will ask you, so is it a thumb rule that all the eukaryotic genes contains the intron? Then you can say no. There are few genes which does not contain the intron, but in general, if you look at the intronic genes, you will find that introns there is a presence of intron as well as exon in the protein sequences of eukaryotic genes. But in prokaryote, there is no intron, only exons are there. So protein sequences will code either amino acids or functional tRNA, whereas regulatory sequences will regulate the expression of genes. So if there is no regulatory sequences, then even if you have the protein sequences, it will not express. So both these sequences are important. Regulatory sequences will regulate the protein sequences. See, for example, suppose if we have a brain and we have a hand. The hand is only functional when our brain gives the signal. If there is a problem in the brain, our hands or some other body part may not function whatever we want to do it. Similarly, a gene or protein sequences will only functional when regulatory sequences will regulate the expression of gene. So the major regulatory sequences are promoter sequences, enhancer sequences, silencer sequences. It also contains the terminator. So these are the major regulatory sequences of an eukaryotic genes. So this is the central dogma. You have also seen in the last class also. This DNA, that is a double-stranded DNA, will encode the mRNA, and this mRNA will encode the protein. So DNA has a capability to replicate itself, and it has a capability to transcribe, and that process is known as transcription. So formation of mRNA from the DNA is known as transcription, whereas the RNA, which includes the protein, and the process is known as translation. So if protein is being formed from an mRNA, the process will be the translation. And there is a reverse transcription also, which converts this mRNA to the DNA. So the conversion of mRNA to the DNA is known as reverse transcription, and this reverse transcriptase is an enzyme which helps in the conversion of RNA to the DNA. And that enzyme is RNA dependent RNA polymerase. So some of the viruses which contains the reverse transcriptase enzyme. So this is the flow of information. DNA will forms this mRNA, and mRNA will be formed at protein. So if you want to analyze the gene function, then there are 2 points where you can look for the gene expression. The first one is transcription. Here you can do the expression analysis at transcript level, like RT-PCR. You have real-time PCR, microarray, next generation sequencing. So there are different techniques which will utilize your mRNA to know the expression. So mRNA will only form when your DNA will transcribe. And you also have you can also know about the gene expression at the protein level. Say for example, ELISA. You have Western blotting. These are the techniques which will tell you whether a gene has been expressed or not. So the 2 point is very critical for knowing the gene expression. The first one is at transcript level and another is at protein level. So these 2 points we can able to say that our gene has expressed or not. I think you all are getting the point. You all understood?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, very nice. So here the gene expression are of two type. The first one is constitutive gene expression, like we breathe, plants do the respiration. These are the constitutive. If it stops, then the organism will die. So constitutive gene expression will always on. It cannot be off. Once it is off, then organism will die. So one important point is constitutive gene expression, and this expression will be controlled by the promoter, and the promoter is known as constitutive promoter. So a constitutive promoter like actin, uvitrin, they perform the expression and they leads to the expression of a protein sequences in all the time in all the part of the tissue. So constitutive expressed genes are always on, it cannot be switched off, whereas inducible gene expression or repression gene expression, they are depend upon the condition. Like some condition they will be expressed, sometimes they will be switched off, some tissues it will be expressed, some tissues it will not express. So it depends upon the condition. So there are two types of expression are mainly observed in eukaryotic genes. One is constitutive expression, in this case your protein sequences will be cloned under the constitutive promoter, and in case of inducible gene expression, all your gene of interest or your genes will be cloned under inducible promoter. Then if we look at the transcription, so promoter is a very vital sequences, and these promoter are the sequences where your RNA polymerase will bind and it will start the process of transcription. So promoter sequences will let your RNA polymerase to bind into it and start the process of transcription. So if there is a mutation in the promoter sequences, then it will hamper the gene expression. And if the gene expression will hamper, means why it will hamper? Because it may hamper the transcription process. So promoter is very important if we wanted to do the gene expression of a gene, maybe while making the transgenic or in normal gene expression also. If we know about the promoter, then we can talk about the gene expression. So promoters are of different type. The important ones are constitutive promoter, You all know that transitive promoters means it is always on, it cannot be switched off. Then inducible promoter, as the name itself indicate that it induces. Like say for example, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis always occur in the daytime. It cannot be occur in the night time. So like disease resistance or insect resistance, they cannot be switched on every time. It has to be switched off sometimes. Say for example, if we look at our case, sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, sometimes we are sad, sometimes we are happy. But these characters cannot be stay for whole life. Some we can try for hours, but we cannot try for a year. We can laugh for half an hour, 1 hour, but we cannot laugh it for 24 days. So these are the traits which are governed by the inducible promoter. Means it has both the properties, switch on and off properties. Then tissue specific promoter, like genes which is expressed in leaf, it cannot be expressed in the root. So the photosynthetic genes will only expressed in the leaf, whereas the root specific promoters they always expressed in the root itself. So these tissue will also different. So it all depends upon what kind of promoter you are taking. If it is tissue specific, then it will expressed in a particular tissue. Then another promoter is synthetic promoters. Synthetic promoters are man-made promoters. We can synthesize those promoters. So we'll see one by one what are the different examples of this, and we'll say how we can use it for our genetic transformation process. The first one is constitutive promoters. You all are getting my point. Devajit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So constitutive promoters, as the name itself indicate that it is always on. So if an organism is live, in that case, these types of promoters are always on. It cannot be switched off. So this is the first important point. The second important point is the level of expression is always same in all the tissues and at all the time point. So if some gene is cloned under constitutive promoter, the level of gene expression is almost same in all the tissue part at all the time point. So if we look at the respiration in general, whether we take it from the leaf, we take it from the root, or we take it at a daytime, we take it as a night time, the gene expression will uniform. There will not be much change in that. So examples are CMB35S promoter, that is cauliflower mosaic virus 35S promoter. What happened are some
Continue.
housekeeping promoters like ubiquitin, actin. These are the promoters which is also known as housekeeping genes. And these promoters will always keep the activity of a gene same in all the tissue and all the time point. So suppose if you want to work with transgenic and you want to do the transitive expression of a gene, then you should look for some transitive promoter. Suppose you want to express some particular gene and you want it should express in leaf, it should always also express in root or in day and night. Every time if you want to express it, then you should take a transitive promoter. 35S promoter you can take actin promoter. So these are the promoters will keep your gene active at all the time point. So depending upon your experiment, you can choose whether you need a transitive promoter or you don't need the transitive promoter. Then another important promoter is inducible promoter. The name itself indicates that it will induce. So it depends upon the condition, maybe environmental condition, maybe different tissues, maybe different time point. So these has a tendency for on and off mechanism. Our inducible promoter may switch on or may switch off the gene expression. So if you want your gene should express at particular time, particular tissue, then you should take a inducible promoter. So inducible promoter cannot be switched on for all the time. Say for example, if you are working with the disease resistance, so you want your promoter should work whenever there is a infestation of a disease. you don't want, when your plant is free from diseases, that you don't want this promoter or this gene will be expressed, because the expression of a gene will require the energy. So plant has to divert some energy for expression of particular gene. So you don't want that. To minimize the loss of the energy, you want your gene should expressed at particular time or whenever it is required. So it is also, these kind of genes are also subjected to up and down regulation in different tissues. So if you want to express maximum in the leaf and you want to express minimum in the root, then also you can take this inducible promoter. It is also subjected to upregulation and downregulation at different time point. Suppose some genes are working in the anoxic condition. Say for example, your ADH promoter. ADH is a alcohol dehydrogenase promoter, and you know that it is used for alternate fermentation. So when your plant is under the submerged condition, or when your plant is in the oxygen limiting condition, that time this gene will expressed. ADH gene will expressed. So it is mainly expressed in the root tissues, because you know that root in the root zone the supply of oxygen is less. So at that time this ADH promoter will work. So in general, if you take the leaf tissue and root tissue, you will find that the expression of this gene ADH gene is higher in the root compared to your leaf tissue. But if you submerge that, if you submerge the leaf or in the water, or if you submerge the plant in the water, and if you take the gene expression, you will find that the expression of ADH gene, or the gene which is controlled under ADH promoter, is higher in the submerged condition compared to the controlled condition. So this gene ADH alcohol dehydrogenase can be used as an inducible promoter. This PAL gene, PAL is phenylammonium lyase promoter. This gene is also used for inducing a gene at particular time point, a particular stage of the crop. So another very good example is Wnt inducible promoter. Suppose if you are working with the insect resistance, then when you know that when a plant is standing and there is an infestation of any insect, the first thing they will do is they will make injury to the plant. So if you clone your defense gene under the wound inducible promoter, then what will happen when there is a insect start feeding it? Then your uh, genes which is cloned under wound inducible promoter will get expressed, and you will get the resistance against the insects. Okay, clear? So wound inducible promoter will let your plant to fight against insect and pest whenever it is required. But if you clone some defense related genes in the constitutive promoter, say for example 35S promoter or actin promoter, what you will get, your defense related genes are active at all the time point, and you will get, and you will your plant will lose lots of energy in maintaining the expression of your insect resistance gene or disease resistance gene. So it is advisable when you work with the insect and diseases, and if you work with the any stress resistance, that time you can use your inducible promoter. Another inducible example of inducible promoter is chemical inducible promoter. Suppose you might have heard about the Terminator technology. So what was the Terminator technology? When if you express those promoter, if you spray some of the chemicals, or if you spray those promoters, then you may not get the fertile seed. So if you clone your gene of interest under the chemical inducible promoter, say for example DEX promoter, DEX, DEX promoter. So if you spray the DEX chemicals, then only your gene will expressed. So if you are working with some set of experiment where you want to know that you want to know about the temperature variation, what is happening if there is a high temperature in some of the trait, then you can clone your gene of interest with some inducible promoter or chemical inducible promoter, and whenever you want your gene should express at this particular stage, that time you can spray the chemicals. Once you spray the chemicals, your promoter will start functioning and you will get the phenotype. So this inducible promoter is very important when you are working with the genetic engineering, And there is advice that whenever you make any transgenic, try to use the inducible promoter. You don't want to express at all the time point. So this promoter will save you a lot of energy of your plant. So inducible promoter is very important if we are trying to work with the transgenic technology. Then another very important promoter is tissue specific promoter. Suppose if you are working with the oil related genes and you wanted to express more oil, or you wanted to produce more oil in some oilseed crops, say for example soybean, linseed, then, and if you are working with the oil related genes, so use the oil, tissue specific promoter. You want oils to deposit in the tissue, in the seed. You don't want to produce oil related genes in the flowering stage. You don't want to produce it at the seedling stage or early seedling stage. So here you want to express your gene at particular tissue. Say for example this oleocin, that is a seed specific promoter. So if you clone your gene of interest in the oleocin promoter, then your gene will be only expressed when there is a formation of seed. In all other time point, it will not be expressed. So this is advisable. So you can work with the tissue specific promoter. Suppose if you want to work in the leaf tissue. So that time if you choose some promoter which only expressed in the leaf, or which only expressed in the green tissues, so that you can save energy and you can manipulate your gene at particular tissue. It's okay. You all are getting the point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very nice.
Yes.
Then another example of this promoter is synthetic promoter. So sometimes synthetic promoters are DNA sequences that do not exist in nature and which are designed to regulate the activity of genes, controlling genes' ability to produce its own encoding protein or encoded protein. So synthetic promoters, as we have said earlier also, this is a man-made promoter. So what you can do, suppose you have a native promoter and you find that this region of promoter is enough for the expression, gene expression, then you can choose that particular segment of DNA only. You don't have to go for the whole promoter region. Okay, so the core promoter, which is important for a gene expression, that promoter can be used for cloning your gene of interest. Say for example, maize ubiquitin 1 promoter, TAG promoter, which contains your actin globulin. So these promoters are synthetic promoters and they drive the high level of gene expression, because whenever you made any transgenic, you have to increase the expression. If you don't increase the gene expression, you may not able to see the phenotype. So these promoters are very crucial when you have to make the gene construct. So in the first slide, we have shown that making of gene construct. So the first important point is which gene is important. Suppose you are working with the drought stress, that time you can take the protein sequences of a drought related genes. Then you need to clone it under the promoter. So which kind of promoter you will choose? You want to express it as a constitutive promoter, then you can choose any constitutive promoter, say for example 35s or actin or ubiquitin. But if you don't want to express it at all the time point, that time you need to use your inducible promoter. Then inducible promoter also has different categories. Like if you are working with some insect damage, that time you can choose the und inducible promoter. If you are trying to express it at particular chemical, if you want to spray some chemicals, and then you want the gene expression, then you can choose the chemical inducible promoter. Then if you are not getting the enough expression level of a particular gene, that time you can also use the synthetic promoter. These synthetic promoters are man-made promoter, and these promoters will have only small segment of the promoter region which is required for your gene expression. So this is the all about the promoters, and depending upon your research experiment, you can choose which kind of promoter you want to take it. Then we will also see in the coming slides or in the coming lecture, we will see about the restriction endonucleases. Restriction endonucleases, what it does, it will bind to the double stranded DNA and it will cleave. Where it will cleave? Where they find the recognition sequences. So restriction endonucleases bind to the recognition sequences which is present in the DNA, and it will cleave it. So restriction endonucleases is also known as molecular seizure. So it will cut the DNA at and it will cleave the phosphodiester bond. So this is one very important recombinant DNA tool. Another very important recombinant DNA tool is DNA ligases. So DNA ligases are the enzyme which forms the phosphodiester bond. So if there are two or more than two DNA sequences, and if you add that T4 DNA ligase or DNA ligase, then it will joins all the small DNA fragments together. So DNA ligases are used to join the DNA fragments. So it is also known as molecular glue. So restriction endonucleases cleave the phosphodiester bond, whereas DNA ligases will form the phosphodiester bond. So these two, restriction endonucleases and your DNA ligases, are important, play a very important role in recombinant DNA tools and technology. So whenever we will do any cloning, in cloning we require the vector DNA. Vector DNA is a circular DNA, and it has the multiple cloning site, means it has a site for DNA digestion. So you can digest your gene of promoters. You can digest your vector molecules using the particular restriction endonucleases, and you take your DNA of interest or gene of interest, you can able to clone it under the vector, and this vector will contain your promoter sequences as well as terminator sequences. So this vector is ready, then this vectors can be transferred or mobilized to the agrobacterium. As we have discussed earlier also, it acts as a vessel for doing the genetic transformation, and then you can do the genetic transformation and you can make the transgenic plant. So we will discuss about restriction endonucleases in detail. We will also see the DNA ligases in detail.